Hi, I'm Pete from Jamie's Food Team, and today I'm going to show you how to make a traditional bolognese lasagna. I've got myself a nice cast iron pot here on a medium heat. Right, I've got a couple of red onions here. Just trim the top and the bottom off. I'm actually going to just cut it into chunks because I'm going to stick it in a food processor. I'm going to get a little bowl for my bits and pieces here. This onion I'm going to pop in my food processor, along with the celery. That's my head of celery. I'm just going to give it a quick peel. So you don't have to do this, but I always do. There we go. I'll just coarsely chop this because, of course, the processor is going to do most of the work. That goes in, food processor, top goes on. Obviously, I could do this by hand, but I want it to be really, really fine cut, so when I cook it in the sauce, it almost disappears. So, just one more whiz. That's about right. Put a little olive oil. Just going to add a little bit of butter as well. Bit naughty. Now, I've got my chopped onion and celery over here. I don't actually use garlic in this, just onion, celery. There we are. Bit of a stir round. Okay. Put the lid on there. I've got a sprig of rosemary here. That should be about right. And I'm going to chop this quite finely. I will do this by hand because it's not so easy to do it in the food processor. Dried is perfectly good. That's about right. Into the pan. I'm just going to stir that in. See it sweating away there. Really want to get this cooked down to as little volume as possible before we put the meat in. Okay, so we'll leave that for probably about 5 minutes. Cook right down. Oh, crikey, those onions have got me. Now the meat, I like one with 50% beef, 50% pork. So that's what I'm going to do today. So I've got 500 grams of each, pork mince, beef mince, and I'm going to add that to the pot once the vegetables are nice and soft. You don't want to colour the vegetables at this stage, you just want to get them nice and soft before we add the meat. Okay, this veg, nice and soft. You see, much softer than it was, but not coloured yet. Get all the water out of it. Time to add the meat. I'm just going to crumble in. Turn the heat up, and now we're going to start to brown it. The browning is a really long, slow process. Right, now as you see, there's a whole load of liquid come out of that mince. It doesn't look terribly appetizing, I grant you, but have faith, keep going. You hear this now? This is not boiling anymore, it's frying. You hear that noise? That's when you know we're in business. That's when you know it's starting to really take on colour, and that colour equals flavour, and that's exactly what you want. So keep it moving. I mean, we've still got another 5 minutes, 10 minutes here to get it really properly browned. Just while that's finishing off, I'm going to get my next ingredients ready. I've got a tin of tomatoes, tomato puree, and I've got some stock. You can use beef stock, you can use chicken stock, veg stock, homemade stock, any kind of stock you like, really. Can you see it starting to stick on the bottom there? That's great, because all of that is delicious caramel flavour. So back on the heat. Keep cooking it. Okay. See how it's nice and caught on the bottom? It's well caramelised. Back on the heat. Push the meat to one side, and in goes like a tablespoon of tomato puree. Just stir that into the meat. Well, first I'll do a splash of wine. I mean, a glass of wine, really. You don't need to be too strict about it. Now in with the tomatoes. Yeah. Can you see the colour already? It's kind of reddish brown. My stock here. Rinse out my tomato can with it. No sense in wasting the tomato that's in there. And goes the rest. There's about a litre of stock in there, and that should be about right. We're basically going to cook this sauce for about another half hour. And if it comes down a little bit too much, then we can add a little more water or stock to it. To make the bechamel sauce, 2 litres of milk in this pan. I'm just going to turn it on, bring it up to the boil very gently. So in the milk, I'm going to put some slices of onion, some cloves, some peppercorns, and some bay leaves, just to make it taste nice. So onion, you definitely don't need a whole one. Just going to cut a few slices. I'll keep the rest for something else. They're going to go in. Got some cloves. I'm just going to use 3 of them. Some peppercorns, 10 of those. A few bay leaves. Pop them in. Good pinch of salt. I'm going to let that come up to the boil. So for the bechamel, the milk is actually almost boiling. So I'm keeping a careful eye on it. I'm going to start the roux in another pan over here. So I'm going to get it hot. 100 grams of butter, 100 grams of flour. Just going to cut the butter up a little, pop it in the pan to get it to melt. The milk's come up to the boil and I've just turned it off. Just about to start sizzling. Flour, so I'll just shake gently in. I'll give it a stir. You stir it quite quickly until it gets smooth. Right, now the roux is nicely sizzling. I'm going to take a ladle of milk and pop it in. I'm going to stir it really quickly. This is the bit we have to work quite hard. Stir it into a paste. It looks kind of smooth, kind of like that. Add a little splash more milk. Stir again. Getting wetter now, but still you've got to keep going until it looks as smooth as possible. You just keep going, a ladle at a time. Make sure it's nice and smooth. And then you actually need to cook it just a little bit longer. Gentle, gentle heat. Just going to turn it down a bit so it's not boiling quite so hard. Bechamel's finished. Nice consistency. Pop the sieve here. So I'll just pour that through. That's about it. Don't force anything through that doesn't want to go through. You look at that, you'll see how much it's reduced. Look at that lovely thick brown sauce. It's time to assemble the lasagna. I've got my dish. I'll do layer 1. A little bit of the bechamel on top. You know, you can leave the salt out altogether, but if you want it to taste really good, it might be wise to just season the sauce up a little bit. And I'm going to put just a tiny bit of cheese in. It's Parmesan, by the way. My pasta sheets, I'm going to snap up and actually put together in a bit of a mosaic. Crazy paving it, and there we go. It's just really the same thing. Right up to the top. There we go. Just make sure it covers every bit of the pasta. A little nutmeg. I've got my oven preheated. It's about 180. And I'm going to give this a double layer of foil. So I'll just tear a layer like that. Double layer like that. Right. Just going to put a tiny bit of oil on it. Dissuade it from sticking. And I'm not going to put the cheese on yet because the cheese won't stick to this. So we'll cover this up. This is going to go in the oven 180 degrees for about 45 minutes with the foil on. And then I'm going to come back, take the foil off, put it back in the oven for another 15 just to crisp the top really nicely. Okay? Right, my lasagna's had about an hour in the oven at 180. I think it's going to be just about done. Pasta's nice and cooked, crispy on the top. Bubbling hot. Oh yeah, look at that. Delicious.